You're leaving the room and my mustache is falling off. Yes, my mustache is falling off. Hello, YouTube audience. We usually are supposed to start at about 9 a.m., but we are a creative group of people and many of us eat bacon. And so sometimes there's a scampering before we start and people aren't quite ready at 9, even though a TV show should just start at the time it's supposed to start. But I'm also having trouble with the mustache they're applying to my face now. So I thought I'd just explain to you why we're a little late. We'll be on in just a couple of seconds, all right? Very good.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but man's keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Oh, shit, Otani. That's a monster international scandal. Are you kidding me? This is what we're going to wake up to this morning. A botched interview on $1 billion economy. I'm not talking about the sport. I'm talking about the dude. Are you shitting me? How does something look this stupid? My mustache smells like glue.
You already have a mustache. Like, why did you put one on top of?
Well, because it's the costume. It's a grid of death punishment, and it's Ted Lasso. But the hat's too small. We've been buying cheap costumes. My wife's not happy with the Metal Arc budget on the costumes. Because this is not great. Like, we're a professional show addressing an international sports controversy, unlike many you've seen before, with the biggest star in baseball, and I should look like proper Ted Lasso. Have you seen the stuff Apple's making, how good it all looks, how expensive it all looks? Everything on Apple, everything is money. Like, not what you see on Netflix where, like, it doesn't look all like money, like giant amounts of money. And look at how I look as Ted Lasso.
I mean, I guess the counterpoint would be we're not Party City. Like, we're not a Halloween costume store, so it's not exactly what our strength would be.
And if only your wife knew someone high at the company that could change the budget.
I think I need to change this. I think I do. I think I need to establish a Metal Arc budget so that you guys can keep accusing me of this costume kink. How about we just go bankrupt and spend all of DraftKings' money on costumes because we're creative.
Did you, go winless this season? I mean, there is a lot of costumes.
I lost a lot. I lost like 15 or 16 times. I thought
16 times?
I think I was 12 at one point. I owed 12 punishments at one point, and then I come in the other day and they tell me Stugotz is paid up, and I just don't understand the bookkeeping around here. Can't be right.
So should we wait with the jokes or do them now?
You can do the jokes now.
Fed Lasso.
The mustache. I'm having trouble with the hat too. I got to do better on the hat. That's
small visor.
That's my fault. The Ohtani story. I do want to get to the parts of this that are hugely fascinating, cultural, because the handling of a scandal right now. When you're talking about the LA Dodgers broke the economy of the sport when they got a giant regional television contract. It's all made for television stuff. All of sports is. And these regional contracts are why the Dodgers are able to have more players than anyone else. And you say, yeah, Mookie Betts, he'll be a shortstop because we got too many players everywhere. And the best of them is Babe Ruth for our era, the biggest star in sports, would be the biggest star in that sport, and undisputably, if he were American and we all kind of knew him and had a commercial campaign about him, he could bring back baseball individually doing what he does, not being from another country where he has to be careful with how he presents in interviews, and you don't want scandals with your words, and so we never get to actually know you. The biggest star in baseball, we don't know you. We can't cross the language barrier. And he's tried. He keeps coming to us. He's now with the Dodgers, the biggest team in the sport. The biggest Asian. Ichiro helped make this sport international. And the Dodgers want to be the team not just for America, but because of the star they just got. They want Ohtani to represent the bridge to how much Japan loves baseball because of the... This has been some of the greatest trade between our country, is that their greatest stars are allowed to play over here. That wasn't always so, allowed to play over here, and the best of them in baseball is the guy now at the center of the controversy you cannot have, which is they don't pay interpreters that well. We'd all be interpreters if an interpreter had $4.5 million to lose gambling. We just saw in one of the big scandals you will ever see in sports right now that will mushroom cloud now, because now the reporting starts on this for real and the investigating starts for real. But that interview, and you guys are going to have to help me with some of the details, again, this dude is $1 billion economy. Whatever is said publicly on his behalf in his country has to be carefully monitored. Carefully monitored. It's a giant budget. The A's payroll this year is $18 million less than it was in 2007. This dude is a baseball team of an economy. He has multiple payrolls. And you cannot let him get embarrassed and look like not only is there a bad crime here, but they're bad at the cover-up too, because it looks like this interpreter is what Antoine once was for Udonis Haslem when there was an arrest here in Miami on marijuana in a car, and we all said we wanted an Antoine. Tell me I'm wrong that this interpreter, that the translator, doesn't look today like this is... Look, I don't want to speak on behalf of a country, but when it comes, and especially a country that's not mine, but when it comes to cultural integrity and representing yourself a certain way, and not just as a citizen, but as an athlete on behalf of your sponsors in Japan, this scandal of integrity is a monster. And so now I ask you guys, what's true here? Because the reporting is early.
Well, no one knows. That's the thing. And best case scenario, it seems like maybe they told the truth at the beginning and Shohei still committed a crime. So best case scenario is he still committed a crime. Worst case scenario is he has a massive gambling problem. Yeah.
Dan, I went ahead and made a web here so you guys can kind of have an idea of what's going on with the Ohtani situation. Right, we have Ohtani here in the middle. right? And then from there, it goes to Mizuhara, who's his interpreter, his translator. Yeah. There's a couple questions I have around Mizuhara, right?
This still pretty comprehensive.
It was.
Me.
It is. So let's see if we can zoom in
This
here.
story or this board?
Jessica, have you participated? Is this a group project or is this just Tony? Tony has created.
No, this is a Tony thing.
All right, so Jessica, you're recusing yourself. You don't want to be seen near what it is that Tony has been told to.
I can't really read the handwriting yet.
I'm a doctor, and some would say.
Ted Lasso, right after the divorce. That's what you look like.
Divorced
Spoiler
Ted Lasso.
alert.
Well, that's the whole character.
But did he look
right after?
Right, but he didn't look different than that in the pilot, did he? Right.
Well, Roy now tells me he signed the papers in the second season. So you know what? I take it back.
Yeah, they were separated, and then in the middle of the show, he ended up finally signing the papers for the divorce.
What was
watch
like
season 2 yet.
post-nuptial?
What was prime visor era? Like visors are
90s?
an era that's behind us, correct?
Same as rollerblades.
It's Steve Spurrier.
I'm a visor gal. I'm not going to lie. I love a visor. I wear a visor for pickleball, golf, tennis, all the sports that I play down here in Miami. Which, by the way, I probably play more sports than anyone else in our entire show.
Yes.
And even I couldn't run a 6-minute mile, Tony.
I didn't say shit. I didn't say shit about a
Cody.
6-minute mile. No, Taylor said he could smash a 6-minute mile. I didn't say shit.
Well, Greg
I just
Cody
assumed
first
you did,
claimed
but-
that he could.
Look at that. Reputation
with-
precedes me.
Thing
Let
with
me get to-
visors, it burns the top of your head, Z.
if you don't have hair,
I
yeah.
have a ponytail, so
Yeah, I
my
guess.
scalp is covered.
Tony, hold on a second. We will get to your chart because you've clearly investigated this better than both ESPN and the LA Times.
Thank
It seems
you.
like you've gotten to the bottom of it. I want to know.
Close.
I feel
don't
like
think
before
so.
we get into the nuts and bolts of what Tony thinks, we should kind of just explain what happened.
Yeah, let's
first.
talk about real facts and then Tony's reality.
Yeah, I will in a second, but Jessica's brought up something slightly more important, which is what was the visor era? Was it Spurrier? Like Billy was that when I associate visors with someone making that champion, I don't know if cool, but fashionable, I associate Steve Spurrier with a visor and throwing a visor and just general guy who likes golf.
Head football coach.
I think of Gus Malzahn, too. He was a big visor guy for a while. Visor vest situation.
Is anyone doing it well now? You're saying Ted Lasso's the latest. This is the reason that you're bringing it up.
Lane Kiffin does a good visor.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Does Lane Kiffin do a good visor? Because it was a staple of Spurrier's because he would throw it.
Butch would rock a visor too, even up until like 3 years ago at FIU. But like his visor was also like the padded visor that was from like the 80s, and I don't know where he was getting those made. But he was still rocking one. I was actually gifted a visor earlier this week. I was like at a school event, and my daughter like used like one of those little bingo like dapper things. What are those things called? You know, when you're playing bingo, just the circle that you hit the. You know what I'm talking
You're
about? Dan?
asking me?
Yeah, you've never played bingo?
Yes, you're just talking
It's
about
like a marker
the
almost.
marker that
Yeah.
leaves a splotch on your bingo card. I don't know what that's called.
It was decorated with that, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to be a visor guy moving forward, and I haven't worn it since. But I haven't had the occasion.
Mike Gundy, big visor guy. I feel like they're still in. I don't think they've gone anywhere.
But the examples that we're giving are all old men who no one would consider fashionable.
Well, I might.
Spurrier wasn't that, but Spurrier did it with winning in a way that was cooler, I think. But I don't think any of us are talking about the fashion of this. I'm wondering whether right now the visor is something that is a good gift if you're getting it at your kid's school, or the visor. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is a visor a good gift?
Well, I don't think Mike Gundy has much of a choice in the matter because of that mullet.
That's what I mean. If you have a big ponytail, visor is the perfect headgear of choice because hat's very difficult. You have to fit the ponytail through the little thingy or through the bottom, which is uncomfortable. But a visor, you can have it high on your head, and the visor goes around it, and it's a perfect look.
When do you think the visor was invented, and what do you think the idea behind it was? Because you, whenever it is, you're trying to make sure that some of your hair is seen. You're trying not to cover all your hair because someone invented the visor, because maybe you don't want to wear a hat because you think you're going bald, and you don't want to have a hat always over your head.
It's when you want to cover your face, but you don't want to cover your head.
I think you emit a lot of heat from your head, which is why if you have the visor, you're actually cooler because the heat is going out of your top
the
of your head.
visor's a cooling system, so less sweat. And so you think it was invented not as a fashion thing of any kind, but like we're going to streamline the aerodynamics of sport by making your head less hot when you're sweating.
Exactly. Shade and emitting less heat makes you cooler.
The visor was invented by William Bauer in London for sports like horseback riding and golf in 1860. The Brooklyn Excisers wore headwear with a visor to shade the eyes while playing baseball. The New York Knickerbockers wore straw hats with a visor in April 24, 1849.
And so did we graduate from the visor to the baseball cap to what order? The visor must have been invented before the baseball cap? Is that what you're saying?
I'm going by what I'm seeing right
I
here.
understand. You're blaming the internet. I get it. We're doing this in real time. There's some danger in doing it that way.
I'm seeing the hat was invented in 3200 BC.
The actual
baseball
hat.
cap. No, that's a hat of any kind. That's a hat of any kind. I was talking about the baseball cap.
I'll get on it.
What do you think the original hat looked like? What do you imagine that original hat looked like? Is it just a piece of cardboard?
Leaf, probably. A big-ass leaf that you put like a thing on. Just keep it moving, baby.
Wood?
In 1903, Spalding introduced the first stitched visor, which became the standard for baseball caps.
So the baseball
So wait, we
cap
started
did
with the
come after
visor and then added the
yes,
head cover
yes,
and not
yes, that's what
the
that's
cap
what
and we cut it off.
That's we're
That's
doing.
fascinating.
This is what we learned today. Now, Chris, you were right though, as the executive producer of the show, and I'm sorry, this crooked mustache makes me wacky. You're being a responsible person when you say, how about we give people who are just waking up and don't know this story, Dan, you're 15 minutes into the show, why don't you tell them what happened with Ohtani? Forgive me for that. I just assume that everyone's so connected at this point that you're getting news throughout the night from your iPhone seeped into your brain because you're just connected to it. And so you don't wake up in the morning and find out anything from us.
That would be great. I mean, some people would probably not like that, but I'd love if my phone just fed me all of the information I needed to know while I was asleep and I woke up and I had it.
Billy, you're a candidate for Neuralink already. Wow.
We're headed to all that stuff. I saw that the Washington University School of St. Louis or something like that had a 10-year research plan, and they now are ready to produce a pill that can produce the physical effects of working out without you working out. And we're
So a
headed
mini
there.
heart attack without you running. Is that what we're doing?
You don't tell me I can't knock out the electric car and Musk all out of the economy if I invent a pill that makes people who don't want to work out just get the benefits of working out. I mean, that's what
That already exists. Go to any like spa or whatever. Just go to Hialeah. You have those boards that just vibrate and you stand on them. Some old people just don't even stand. They just sit and you stand on it with your feet and it just like shakes and you're like good. Or they have like the ones that are like the electric like pulses
It's
that
like
go
you do
through. You're like,
20,000 ab crunches.
exactly right. You're just laying there drinking like a Mai Tai. And then they're doing like, oh, you just did 60,000 crunches. Here's a six-pack. It's great. Strap it to your butt. Oh, the glutes.
Tony, I
You know what I mean?
I saw something I liked the other day. Was it Tony's Tonight? You and I saw. Well, I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but
spoiler,
you're
Dan.
traveling around some South Florida places that are funny because of how Hispanic they are. Can you tell me, please, whether you and anyone can pop up at one of these establishments to do exercise so that people can hear an old woman call you mi cielo?
Oh, mi rey. That would be mi rey there because I'm taking my shirt off. But yes, Dan. So there's something that we're gonna play a little later today that is gonna be that and a string of other things that we did around Miami, and we have more to come. So I can go to one of those like cool sculpting places or the ab crunchers, 80,000 crunches for a place. Like I could do that.
Miami is super weird. We'll get to more of the Ohtani stuff in a second. Miami is a super strange place, as Jessica has learned over the last 3 years. And we
You just said I should go to a place and get massive Botox and come back like just like the weekend, just like all disfigured.
I feel like South Florida was the hub, not just in baseball, but for anti-aging stuff. I feel like we were 15 years ahead of everybody else. Every corner down here, you could get a needle in your face and you'd be 25 forever. And then Manny Ramirez and A-Rod discovered them, and then they went through the tanning salons and stuff. They went through the cheaper, worse route. We had both botanicas. We had little shops anywhere where wait a minute, you want to be 30 forever? Sure. Just put this in your forehead.
You want a BBL? I got you.
Don't ask any questions.
Did you guys see
Tire pump, but whatever.
Did you guys see somewhat related to this Tracy Morgan's quotes yesterday, which were just incredible? I can out eat Ozempic.
Get me all of the quotes.
He's gained 40 pounds while London, and his quote was, "I can out eat Ozempic."
Okay, so this stuff is still in the trial stage. I
We're
know
not using it for its correct intended use,
I
but,
know, I know we were all experts all of a sudden on the vaccine. We were all experts in our own camps. But wherever it is you are on science, we're all good with Ozempic, right? Whatever the consequences are. What, skinny and it doesn't matter? Skinny, no, it's just
No.
do you know how much money I can make if I tell fat people I got an exercise pill? You say we already have that. I got an exercise pill they've been working on in St. Louis for 10 years.
School of Washington, though.
It's a School of Washington in St. Louis. I didn't understand it.
Washington University in St. Louis. It's a very
Different places.
It's like
Yeah.
a
You see how we
medical
can get
research.
confused, though, right? It's Washington,
It's like
St.
Indiana
Louis.
University of Pennsylvania. It's one
What?
of those weird things you just
They
know.
have that?
My ignorance is showing there. I know that this is me problem, not anyone else's, but Tony was laughing at me because I said Washington and St. Louis, and now he's discrediting the whole paper that tells me that I'm soon going to have. Look, man, you think people are waking up to the Otani news this morning? The Otani news, and like, I didn't know that. They are shocked right now that I am telling them that there is a pill that you don't have to exercise, and you'll have the physical benefits of exercise, which is where we're all headed. Like if you give Ozempic, how much is Ozempic? The people who made Ozempic, how much is that worth? That I could wait a minute. What's the customer base? America's vanity? Oh yeah, here, just
or diabetics.
or that's right, or diabetics.
More importantly.
We don't know the consequences. It seems like it's still in a phase where if you don't want to take the vaccine and you're scared of what things can do to your body, taking something that just makes you lose weight when everybody wants to lose a little bit of weight, it seems like a great business.
Doug Peterson was definitely wearing the visor just to show off the flow, right? Yeah. He's got great hair.
Yeah, good salad.
Salt and pepper.
He does it well. It also, Doug Peterson, though, to explain this to me, because I do feel with him and the visor, there is something here that feels Jacksonville gritty. Gritty, like lived hard scrabble.
Like it didn't hit the same in Philly.
But everything happening, Doug Peterson, is a different time. 1970s Trans Ams, like that man ruled the earth. A man that looked like that ruled every neighborhood in 1970.
Absolutely. Got cowboy boots on, flicking a Marlboro Red out the top of the window.
Yes,
yeah.
no, all the other husbands and fathers were scared of that man when he walked through. Yeah, and he walked through with his visor and his hair and jeans, and all the women loved him. And of course, he would lead your team to 10-7 and disappointment in the playoffs. Give me the Otani details, please.
Glad you asked, Dan. Okay, so we've got a lot to cover in a short amount of time. Obviously, you see we have a lot of
not your details.
webs.
I want the factual
these are the
details.
facts.
I know, but okay, those are some facts, but I want to get the facts from our executive producer who's insistent here that we get to the sports facts of the day because we're 20 minutes on what might be the biggest sports scandal of our time.
To Billy's point, there's not a lot we know for certain. The one thing we know for certain is that bank records show Otani's name on two $500,000 wire transfers sent to an associate of Bowers, which is a gambling, under
syndicate.
Yes, an illegal gambling outlet.
But syndicate sound. Yes,
I love that word.
It's a great word. Let's talk about this for a second, though. But syndicate.
It can't be called a syndicate and
not,
pretend he doesn't know what's going on. If the word syndicate is in it, you know.
It sounds like something out of John Wick.
Let me not wire you any
March
money.
is a big month for syndication.
Yeah,
all
it
right.
is.
It's a great word. Why is there a syndicate in the middle of this?
Well, it's not in the middle. It's more off to the side, right? The whole situation is that the syndicate was investigated by the U.S. government, right? Which is where they found Otani's name, right? So we go back up to Otani. Yeah, I erased it with my finger. My bad.
Yeah.
So if we start with Otani, right at the top, right? Mizuhara, his translator, has a lot of things going on. He, quote unquote, has been gambling with Boyer, whatever, however you pronounce it, who is the head of the syndicate, right? He gets caught with a $4.5 million debt. They're figuring out, hey, where did this money come from? How did they do the wire transfers? That was part of the U.S. government investigation. So we go back to Mizuhara. He says, I didn't know it was illegal. Yeah. I bet on DraftKings before. I thought that this guy was just another guy that I could gamble with. Wrong. ESPN interview comes up. Hey, I'm bad at gambling. This is incredible. What? Bad gambler. That's another part. Bad gambler? Question mark? How can you be that bad of a gambler? So ESPN.
You can be.
Yeah.
I don't understand that point.
What
I
do
feel
you
like
is
we're
that
injecting
point?
some opinion
That-
into
that-
this
Yeah,
now.
let's-
No,
Hey,
he says it.
Tony, keep your politics out of
editorializing.
this.
Here.
He says it in the actual article. If you guys read the article, Mizuhara comes out as part of his statement, says, "I'm a really bad gambler. It snowballed out of control. There's nothing I can do about it,"
Right,
which is why it's.
But
a
you
point.
said, how can you?
How can you be a bad
Fine.
gambler?
How can you
we'll
be
move
that
on.
bad of a gambler?
Just stop right there, for
Okay.
just a second, okay?
I have a lot to get to still.
I know, but we're going to talk to somebody. Right? The LA Times is following this story more
Why?
closely
We have Tony.
than we are.
Me and him could talk about it. The guy from the LA Times.
I'm just really confused right now, and maybe more details will come out, and I'll seem like an idiot. 'Cause
I
I'm
can clear
asking
this all up.
question. Why is this interview being done? Why is somebody being put in front of a camera to say an explanation here for what happened, and then everyone starts backtracking, and makes it obvious to all? Wait a minute, that's not the interpreter. Like, that's an obvious fall guy. Like, he was thrown out in front of the cameras.
we don't know that. We don't know
Allegedly.
that he was an
Hold on.
obvious.
Throw away
Yeah.
all journalistic credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
What we know.
You're good.
It's the leap everyone's making.
No, but we don't need to make that leap. We don't need to make that
We're just
leap because
covering
we
you.
don't know
Notice
enough.
how this is a web of facts. There's no leap here.
Yeah. Well, the bad gambler thing was a kind
Well,
of
that's a
question.
question,
That wasn't
though.
a fact.
That's a
yeah.
question.
What we do know is this: there was a story. They tried to paint Shohei as the good guy who was bailing out his friend. He then elaborated on this story and told more story, and then Shohei's people quickly realized, oh, even in this story, Shohei's implicated for a crime. So
Tony has it right
we
here.
now need to change
Wait,
our
no.
story.
It
So
says
he
right
does
there.
the ESPN interview, and then they go, "Wait, no." Yeah. Massive theft?
Wait, no.
They said, "Wait,
Why-
no."
why-
Massive
okay.
theft? Who?
All right, Billy.
It ends at who?
I think what we can all agree on here is that the real crime is that California is not a DraftKings state.
Yes.
And if they
Yes.
were,
Amen.
none
Yes.
of this would even have come up.
Amen. Oh, Tony, you want to avoid all
Recall
of this?
Newsom?
It's so easy to
Finally,
avoid all of this.
Somebody should have mentioned it earlier.
Gambling has been so normalized so fast.
Brian Kelly, big visor guy.
Does that make it better or worse for the visor?
None of these are good.
No, Doug Peterson. Come on.
I might have to switch to hats.
This is exactly what this man should look like, working in the bowels of journalism, doing good reporting, doing the hard stuff nobody wants to do anymore, in the dirt of investigations. Gustavo Arellano is a columnist for the LA Times, and his paper, he's one of 4 bylines on this story involving what could be a pretty seismic scandal if more reporting unveils what looks like right now a real cluster bleep. So, Gustavo, thank you for joining us on the West Coast. Walk us through your reporting on this. We've done a very poor job of that this morning. Walk us through your reporting on how it comes to be that this story comes to be.
First and foremost, thank you so much to have me. It's an honor. My cousins are finally paying attention to something I've ever done in my 25-year career, all because of you.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your work, because these stories are hard to report, and they need vetting, and I just couldn't believe that from what I've read so far this morning, it feels like the reporting was far out in front of the people reacting to it because they didn't know how to react to it yesterday, and they did so very poorly. So walk us through your reporting, please.
So this is how it goes. For years, federal prosecutors in Southern California have been investigating these gambling rings, illegal gambling rings. In the past, currently one of them has got caught up. Yasiel Puig, the former Dodgers player, was pleaded not guilty to betting illegally. So what ended up happening in the course of one of these investigations, sources told us that one of the names that had been part of one of these rings was Shohei Ohtani. And so we got a hold of it. We reached out to Ohtani's representatives. They come back and they tell us, oh, well, we didn't know anything about this. But by the way, we didn't know anything about this. And we asked his translator, Mizuhara, what's up with this? And apparently, this is according to them, Mizuhara said was not forthcoming. So then they come to us and they're like, Dodgers are like, by the way, he's fired. Ohtani's attorneys, their exact quote, we have found out that someone has engaged in, quote, massive theft of Ohtani, and we are going to pursue whatever's possible, like any legal recourse is. And yeah, that's a story that has been told through them, and we'll leave it at that.
Does that ring true to you? I know you're a columnist and there's some reporting here, and so I want facts separated from opinion, and I don't want to be gratuitously scandalous, but walk me through, because you guys have to lawyer all this stuff, and you guys have to be very careful about the reporting on this. So when that's the explanation, after how many days was that the explanation, and how bumbling was it, or how orchestrated was that as the response?
I cannot speak to that because we are continuing to report the story. What I can say is that we have been working on this story for a while. Once we told them what we had found, there was initially, we don't know anything about this. And then all of a sudden we get this and we're like, that's interesting. And so that's what we had to run with. But running with something doesn't mean that the story is done. Running with something doesn't mean that there's not going to be further examination of what's going on. And that's now the game that we're going to have to play.
Well, when you say running something, because now the information now people will get real information, because you're only able to get this on the outskirts of this because suddenly you're reporting around a syndicate. There are investigations going on. But now we'll get closer to what's real here. And what is the story's next steps in your mind?
Remember, this is something that has been going on, these illegal gambling rings, for a long time. One of the people involved with Ohtani's name came up in an investigation for a guy where I'm from in Orange County, Matthew Bauer, who has, it's alleged that he's running this illegal gambling ring. What we do know that there's been findings, rather legal, he's had to pay out $1 million to certain casinos for not being able to pay his markers, so that Ohtani's name is connected. And by the way, the feds are not saying he's done anything wrong. No one is saying he's done anything wrong. Bauer, or Bo, or whatever his name is, Bower's attorney says my client has never had anything to do with Ohtani at all. All the blame currently by Ohtani's representatives is being put on Mizuhara, his translator, who has been by his sides from the moment, really going back to when Ohtani was back in Japan and came here with him with the Angels. was going to be with him with the Dodgers, was still translating for him, by the way, when we were asking these questions. As recently as Wednesday, our story dropped Wednesday. So Wednesday night in Japan. So something is going on, and that's what we're trying to get at.
All right, Gustavo, I need you need to walk us through something here, because you really are surrounded by books here, and I believe I'm going to report this exclusively right now. This man right here is the last standing journalist in America. Even though he is sitting, he is in a room full of books, and he's protecting journalism here. When your byline appears on this story, your byline means everything in that story is fact. You're a columnist. You're paid to give your opinion. Separate for me the reporting on this with what you, the opinion columnists, thinks happened here. Where are we in this story? You have said Ohtani has not done anything wrong, but you have presented in front of multiple cultures now the possibility of a giant sports scandal. What do you think this is?
How can I put this? Lo voy a decir en español para que no me pongan atención. Mis jefes me han dicho que por este artículo soy reportero, no puedo ser columnista, entonces no puedo dar mi opinión, pero lo que sí puedo decir es que algo está pasando y Ohtani es el jugador más mejor en el mundo y que él está en este escándalo, pues chingasu, ¿verdad?
Okay, this is excellent. I'm going to
said Shohei did it.
I'm going to translate.
Don't do
that.
that,
Not what I
don't do
said.
that to Gustavito.
I did not say that.
Do
That
not
is
do that
not
to
what he
Gustavito.
said.
Stop that,
Billy.
Oye,
Penalty
pa'
box.
fuera. Pa'
Penalty
fuera con
box.
él.
Penalty
Wow,
box.
lagartija.
Out, Billy. Out. This is a big suspension. I don't know what the penalty needs to be. That is not what he said.
That, Dan?
That is not you. That is not what he said. What he said, and I'm sorry to do this to you publicly, Gustavo, because you and your paper, what they're doing to you here is an act of sheer cowardice. You just told us that you're only allowed to do this as a reporter. You're not allowed to give your opinion on anything here, even though you're an opinion columnist. And I appreciate the journalism in this, but you are talking to your friends about what your opinion is in private. And I want that opinion because you know more than anybody here about what's actually happening so far, because this is going to unspool into something. That's not a matter of opinion. Because all he said, Tony, the short translation on what he was allowed to say is something is happening here.
He said something happened to the biggest baseball player in the world. I don't know.
Something is happening here is not an exclusive report.
There was also a curse in there somewhere.
Yes. What was it?
Oh.
Yeah. What did he say?
I said chingazo. I don't think Cubans say chingazo. I'd say coño. Maybe
Coño,
say
coño.
All right. So,
Coño.
so you're not allowed to tell us what you think happened here. But what are some plausible probabilities that we can walk through based on the facts in your reporting?
I am totally allowed to say my opinion, of course, because I'm a columnist. But this is what I'm just telling you what we know. That here you have the biggest name, Ohtani, in the world for professional sports, coming up in a federal investigation involving a guy who has a shady past. We are still going through this, as everyone is. There has been no charges filed. Bauer's home was raided in October. He has, of course, denies anything. There has been no charges filed against him, though. The feds, they are not talking. They did not give a comment to us or anyone else who is reaching out to them. So this investigation is ongoing. But, if you want to put it in just based on the facts, the biggest baseball player in the world, his name has popped up in an investigation. What his side is saying that it's his translator who has been by his side forever, as long as he's been in Major League Baseball. He is accused of, this is what the attorney said, massive theft. You do not say massive theft just lightly. When myself and my colleagues, Nathan Fenno, Adam Elmaric, Dylan Hernandez, Jack Harris, and Paul Pringle, of course, our editor, when we put our bylines to something, anytime, yeah, you can say whatever you want online, but when you're going to put it in a page for the Los Angeles Times, yeah, we have our facts, and we're going to run with the facts that we have. That much I can say.
It seems like either way, we're just dealing with in either scenario, either Ohtani is a great friend who is just picking up a friend's gambling debt, or This guy, the translator's a great friend because Ohtani has a huge gambling problem and he's taking the fall for it. So either way, there's a great friend here.
Okay, that's the reporting. That's the reporting. Either way, there's a great friend
here. That's my
here.
takeaway.
Okay. How suspicious did how strange did you find the interview and the reaction to the interview?
So you're talking about the ESPN interview where where Mizuhara says one thing, and then later on he says like, oh no, they basically canceled the interview, what he said. At first he said that Ohtani was there with him writing these wire transfers. ESPN had these wire transfers that showed that there was two $500,000 transfers to a third party that went to Bauer. Look, when you're a reporter and you interview somebody and then all of a sudden they say, oh, no, that didn't happen, you have to wonder what is going on. And there's wondering, and then there's reporting, and any reporter worth their weight in salt, they're going to continue to report, and that's what we're going to do at the Los Angeles Times.
It's just sort of funny as a controversy from the bowels of all those books. Like, you're saying something is happening here, and that's all that was reported today. Like, that is what the scandal is so far. There's an investigation into something is happening here. It might be massive theft. Tony, before Gustavo gets out of here, give him your theory succinctly put, please.
Well, again, this is not my theory. This is just the facts as we talked about it. Gustavo, good to see you. Good to meet you. What I have here is Mizuhara, who's connected to Bauer or Boyer. We don't really know how to pronounce his name. I also heard that you didn't either, so that's good to know. But we have a couple webs here. I don't know if you can see my board. We had Mizuhara at the center of it, right? Then we had the ESPN interview, and then he said, wait, no, that's not what happened. What happened is a massive theft. But who? Who is the massive theft from? That's what we're trying to figure out here. That's the story.
And it's too early. It's too early, right, to say, Gustavo?
No one's questioning that it'd be Ohtani the theft was from.
No, but who stole it? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Who's gambling?
This looks like a web from that meme of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. How did that one come out?
Nailed it. But it's also been right because every time you've said something, I've pointed at the web because you've said something that I've had on the web.
All right, Gustavo, thank you. Yes, the audience has caught on to us. Gustavo, thank you. That is Fred Armisen. This has all been a skit. It's been a journalism skit. Thank you, Gustavo.
Un placer. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Gracias. Billy, I don't know in your history with the show how many moments, like I would love if you would over the weekend, just your own personal top 5 on your favorite anarchy moments. But you hold on.
I don't know if this is being presented properly.
I haven't presented anything yet, Billy. Nothing's been presented.
I object.
You object to what you did in the last segment, which is
sustained.
This is so good because you've had to do some of these pods where we have to do translations of Spanish to English, and you've recognized the differences in the language that make it so that somebody says 1,000 words to say 7 things in English.
Yeah.
And so he said all those words, and really the translation is something is here. That's his reporting, is something is here.
It's not what I heard.
And he was so careful about it that he went to Spanish because he wasn't comfortable answering my question in English about what's your opinion here. He had to go to Spanish to do it. And so I, in that moment of pressure, you know what it costs to translate these word for words. I'm writing things down. I'm writing what the man said down because I know you sure as shit weren't
I was
going to
taking
translate.
mental notes. Yeah.
Right. You sure as shit weren't going
Trying to help out.
translate, trying to tell the audience.
Pitch in.
Do you realize the moment we just had is I'm asking a person to explain, what is this scandal? What is your opinion? The answer comes in Spanish. He has unspooled the answer to the mystery. I then have to translate it, and you do that to our conversation.
Yeah. Mine was more fun. That's what I would do as a translator, I think. I think I'd have maximum fun, which really, I would say the translator.
Is that what he was doing?
Well, the translator here, obviously something's going on, and he hasn't, if he was a great translator, he'd keep this away from absolutely everyone, right? And he'd be handling this situation on his own, like up until the court date, where like Shohei's there, and Shohei's like, where are we going? He's like, nah, we're just going to go do this thing. And then like he'll be translating, and then the people like trying to prosecute Shohei or whatever will be like, what does he have to say? And Shohei's just learning about this all as it's happening because he kept it away from him, as a good translator would, right? And a good friend would. And then Shohei would be like, I'd like to declare my innocence. And then the translator would say, he says that he's guilty. And then they'd take Shohei away, and then the translator
So
gets
wacky
off.
translator.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, that's what you think of with that job.
I
And-
think that,
and,
I mean, if this
Saying
guy,
ridiculous things.
Yeah,
as
no,
he
no,
didn't
and
guy
that
wants to
job-
clear
no,
his
I've-
name.
I've
He's the
known-
one that's in
look,
charge of the
when
communication back and
I
forth.
know,
He
when
can
I
control
know,
the
when I-
conversation.
I know.
There's other people that
He's
speak
let this get
Japanese.
away from him.
No, when I think
Not someone that's as trusted by Shohei as him, apparently.
He's not the only one that knows the answers.
when I think of Ichiro bringing this culture and baseball to America, I think of wacky. I think wacky translators. I think those positions, those tend to be pretty scared jobs, honest to God. Like when, forgive me here, because I'd actually like to talk to some baseball people about what this world is around Ohtani, because it's going to be hard to explain. Baseball, going back to Ichiro, what Ichiro is in Japan, I don't think I can explain it to you, but he is the biggest of cultural icons, okay? The first, a giant star, LeBron James on steroids, the best among us, always representing us well, always very careful about how he represents, always tied to many, many of our sponsors on how we represent to the rest of the world our people, how we take baseball to the globe, how we can play with the Americans in their sport. Ichiro was the first. Then here comes this guy, twice his physical size, and he pitches, and he's Babe Ruth. And oh my God, he's more of an athlete than all of America's athletes. He faces Mike Trout as a pitcher and strikes him out like in an all-star game because he can do everything. I'm telling you, if this was happening, if this was an American story, this player, he'd be the biggest thing we've ever known. He'd bring baseball back. This person playing in this market as an American with Jazz Chisholm's personality, or with just representing something other than what Ohtani represents, which is the giant business of Japan. Japan has gone into business with Los Angeles Dodgers Incorporated to make American television. And they're going to conquer baseball, the Dodgers are, and they're going to buy all the players.
Well, and they get to the playoffs and they'll
Right, then-
vomit all
then
over
Atlanta will
themselves,
beat
because
them.
that's exactly
Yes.
what happens with the Dodgers. But that's a story for another day.
But we've made fun of this, the things that have happened in Anaheim with the Angels. We've made fun of this team that stardom goes to die there. How can this person not be a giant international sports star in our country that feels just like LeBron James? Not smaller than because it's baseball. Like, you guys know what you tried to do with Aaron Judge. This is Aaron Judge and he pitches. Like, if this dude was an American personality, he'd be the most giant thing our sports landscape had seen. Somebody conquering America's sport this way. From another country, he comes here and does this. And scandal, when it gets near your sponsorships, is like the ugliest thing.
So far, it feels like the narrative is that it's not a scandal for Ohtani though yet. It seems like the narrative right now is this guy had a problem. We're kind of speculating.
It's
like,
very
is this a
early.
cover up? That's why I think we all need to state our cases of what we think this early on.
It's too early
because we
for
know
me to
we're gonna learn eventually what's happening here. Like gut feeling. Are we thinking that this is an interpreter with a gambling problem, or is this a cover up for Ohtani having a gambling problem?
I have winners and losers, if you would like that.
Okay.
Right
But
now,
not an answer in any way to what Chris just asked you.
well, you haven't heard my answer for the winners and losers. Initial thoughts. My initial thoughts are winners and losers. That's where I head to because this is sports radio, TV.
Is baseball
podcast.
a winner?
Baseball's a big winner. Baseball's a big winner because of the fact that one of the players who's playing in this game that otherwise no one would be watching is embroiled in an incredible scandal right now. And yesterday, in the dugout, as this was unfolding in real time, he was palling around with his friend who allegedly stole $4.5 million from him. And at the time, he would have known that this happened already when you look at the timeline. So his actions and kind of being caught by a camera crew that didn't know this was going on kind of undoes this story a little bit. Because they were very friendly in what was going on there. And they knew this was happening, but it seems like the Dodgers did not know this was happening because after the game, he then went and told the whole organization, I have a gambling problem, a story is coming out, and they fired him immediately. But Shohei knew what was going on. And if he actually stole $4.5 million from him, he probably would not have been next to him joking around in the bottom of the ninth inning yesterday. Correct?
But then all the stuff that they say in the ESPN investigation or ESPN interview with Masuhara, like, oh, Ohtani was there. He was the one that went on his computer and then sent the money to Bauer or Boyer. Like, is all that stuff true? But they said, wait, no, none of it's true. It's actually a theft. But are those actual details part of what the story is?
I don't feel like Roy and Jessica are as intrigued by some of what it is that we are enjoying here. I assure you, whenever it is.
I mean, there's syndicates here.
Jess privately told me baseball's back.
Wow.
Okay.
Baseball is super back, but I'm letting Billy cook, Dan.
Okay,
This is his moment.
So forgive me. Yes, it is his moment. David Sampson and Adnan Virk will be here momentarily because this really does have the range to feel, Billy, if you answered the question directly on what you think happened here, this has the range to feel like a big sports scandal or nothing at all.
Yes. You want another winner? Yes. Miguel Rojas, big winner. Yesterday, everyone was like, wow, this guy, not a very good baseball player. And Jazz is out here telling everyone, not a good baseball player, not a good team captain. Lo and behold, just a day later, someone on his own new team. Massive story that no one's going to be talking about Jazz and Miguel Rojas ever again.
Will this come up on your Marlins broadcast tomorrow with Chris?
Ooh. I don't know what we're allowed to talk about. I'm going to have to get
Well,
the
you're allowed to
rules
talk
in
about the Jazz thing, right?
I think I'm more allowed to talk about Shohei.
I was going to say, I'm hoping the Jazz thing doesn't come up
I
tomorrow,
think they want
actually.
me to talk about the other thing instead.
I heard David Sampson on Nothing Personal talking about this earlier, and he brought up the point that one of the only employees that he didn't vet in the hiring process was Ichiro's translator. That he kind of just like, this is who my translator is, this is what you pay him, and there's no like vetting process. So that's like an interesting little wrinkle in there that the Dodgers probably didn't vet this guy that much.
Well, one of the things that David Sampson is going to bring some illumination on here, because one of you was telling me today that you were listening to the Big Dog on the way in, which made me happy.
That was me.
And that made me happy to hear. It really did. That all of that was still a thing happening in South Florida.
Odell Beckham's in for a visit today, Dan. Big story down here locally.
It made me happy that you were saying that the Big Dog and South Florida are wondering why we are platforming Sampson, as a lot of people do. And
his producer was. Like, I don't want to say the Big Dog.
Are you throwing somebody under the bus here?
No, I'm just saying. Dan made it seem like the Big Dog said it. It was on the Big Dog show.
You wouldn't be the only one who says it.
I am saying that
it made me smile because honestly, I hadn't really heard that in like a couple of years of
it comes up in meetings here regularly.
It made me smile, though. I'm like driving in the car, and they're like, I can't believe they didn't mention our show. They weren't like, why is Dan platforming? They're just like, I can't believe that guy still has a platform.
Well, and so he's going on tour now. He's going on tour. David Sampson coming to a city near you.
The Big Dog did say, in David's defense, he's like, but he does say some stuff.
Well, and no, but so this is where, and I wish I asked for Pablo, too, because the history of this is fascinating to me. Like I've seen in my lifetime a wonderful cultural bridge built between these countries and this sport and the economies of these different cultures, and how David Sampson became legitimate friends with Ichiro. And he's going to be able to give you what little access sports stars of this nature actually give you? David Sampson probably knows more about Ichiro than most and doesn't probably know very much, but I'd like to actually find out, because I'm sure Adnan and David Sampson, with some old-timey thinking about how things should be done, they're both kind of they run older morally. These two guys probably think this is a giant problem, I'm guessing. That this reporting is like the reporting you want least around anything that you're doing in sports.
This is a giant problem. Yeah. Like this, you have your biggest star in the middle of a gambling controversy.
I mean, a lot of people are going to be watching MLB Network today.
The walls have fallen on this. Like gambling, I know there's criminal stuff here, and I know sports has to be careful about this, but of course, this is what you wrought. Like,
You think March Madness is pissed about this today?
Oh,
like, what
my
the hell?
God.
This is our day.
Oh,
Come noon, we're going to focus on the
we got to
brackets.
do that.
Yeah,
we
come
have
on,
to
don't
do
be
that.
crazy.